So, because of the stupid 90-minute limit yesterday, I couldn't deliver my speech. So, here it is. This country needs our democracy to be fully functioning in order to make the best decisions we can. MP's first job on all sides of the House, no matter what political party you belong to, is to hold the government to account, to make sure we have good legislation. So, this gentleman's agreement that Matt Hancock talked about yesterday isn't worth the paper that it isn't written on. We're not in March anymore. We are 6 months down the line. So the extraordinary powers that we gave to the government, they no longer need. And actually, the Secretary of State admitted this yesterday, that he doesn't need all of the extraordinary powers that was given to him. And you know what? Voters, constituents deserve to have their MPs in Parliament, in the mother of all parliaments, talking on their behalf. We're supposed to have dialogue and scrutiny. That is fundamental to who we are in Parliament. We are going to face the most difficult winter, and we need to be working together on all sides of the House. Because, like it or not, we are facing a resurgence of the coronavirus pandemic, an abrupt end to furlough, and a no deal Brexit. And let me nip in the bud this idea that ministers have to react quickly. Acting in haste has resulted in billions of pounds in waste, numerous U-turns, and an inadequate test, trace, and isolate system, which is key to controlling the pandemic. We have to get it right. If Parliament was told of government plans the same time as Peston and other journalists, we would have plenty of time to debate bills, statutory instruments, and ideas. This attack on our country's democracy and all of our freedoms is of critical importance, as the weakening of our democracy is part of a pattern that threatens our fundamental British values. Whether the Prime Minister and his advisers like it or not, our Parliament in the United Kingdom is sovereign, and the government's actions to stifle parliamentary democracy is worrying, especially when you think of what else they've done, right? The proroguing of Parliament, overturned by the Supreme Court last year, the brutal hounding out of the heads of our civil service, the attacks on the public broadcaster, Henry VIII powers without the consent of Parliament, breaking international law, trade deals without parliamentary scrutiny, and procurement contracts without parliamentary oversight. And we know how many billions of pounds have been wasted on that. And the planned weakening of our judicial system, and the withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights, which in fact should worry each and every one of us. Look, the bars in Parliament might finally be closing at 10 p.m, but this government is drunk on power. We cannot allow the Prime Minister and his advisers' insatiable lust for power threaten our fundamental values of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Parliamentary accountability is crucial at any time, but when ministers have taken unprecedented emergency measures that limit our liberties, the way we live our lives, our freedoms, it is more crucial than ever. The government should be focusing on health and acknowledge the severe mental health toll that this lockdown and the pandemic has had on people, and the rise in domestic violence. The government's latest announcements include £10,000 fine if people don't self-isolate. Well, that puts an end to lots of people in Brent, and I'm sure beyond, downloading the app. I think it's a self-defeating decision. And snitching on our neighbours, destroying the community relations that have been built during lockdown, the wonderful coming together, and a £50 fine if people don't confess they have to self-isolate. That sounds good, but how about the people that can't eat and feed themselves if they don't work? A person can be fined £4,000 if they are reckless in coming into contact with a significant number of people. Well, let me tell you, the way that we vote in Parliament is pretty reckless and ticks all of those no-go boxes. And to conclude, let me quote Liberty. Prioritising criminal justice over public health does not simply undermine attempts to bring the pandemic under control, it also undermines the health of the UK's democracy. While sending a signal to authoritarian governments the world over that a pandemic is legitimate cover to implement repressive measures indefinitely. I say we need more accountability of this government.